Hi friends, I'm LJ Jarvis, and welcome back to the Lewis Jarvis Show. So like one of my older videos, today we're going over the top 5 ladies found in a tabletop game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And like that video, we're going to be going over named female characters. These have to be female models with names in them, something that makes them a character. They don't need a library of books or lore in their backstory. They just need a name. Again, something that makes them a character. If interested, you can actually watch my top 5 for a K-Ladies video with the link here. But with all that out of the way, let's begin the show. Starting things off, we're going over the demon princess herself, Valkyrie the Bloody. Now, despite me not having read any of her books, and admittedly I don't know anything about her other than her name and the fact that she's a demon princess, I'm putting her on this list because of how neat the idea is, and if anything, the potential that this character has for the AoS setting. Because here's the thing. She actually reminds me of the female Chaos Lord of Khorne in the Kotrek and Felix book, Trollslayer. So other than the factor that she reminds me of the character from that book, I also find it fascinating that she's also a demon prince, or demon princess in this case. And of how Games Workshop went with their look, of how they designed this character, yeah, I find it really cool. And yes, I will admit that the model hasn't aged well, and it is quite ugly if you were to compare it to all the newer stuff in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I think there's an opportunity for Games Workshop. If they were to reimagine this model, if they were to give her a brand new model for the setting, I think it would be something very, very cool to see. If Sigvald could be given a whole new model, given a new look, something magnificent in a way, quote unquote. I think if Games Workshop did something like that for Valkyrie the Bloody, perhaps a reimagined look. If Games Workshop decided to do something like that for Valkyrie, I think that'll be a sight to behold. And whilst I'm waiting for this to happen, whilst I'm waiting for a potential new model of her to arrive, I'm going to add her book to my list of stuff that needs to be read. Next up on this list, we have the Lady Stormcast Eternal herself, Asteria Soulbright. And yeah, despite her being a precedent model made for beginners of the hobby, I'm putting her on this list because of the creative freedom that this has given to Games Workshop. And I believe that this character represents that. It represents that creative freedom that Games Workshop took when 2nd edition came to be. But what do I mean by this? Well, to me at least, and with the knowledge that I have when Age of Sigmar came around, is that the Stormcast Eternals seem to be a okay faction. I mean, souls and glimmering gold armor. It's an okay idea, and something I was like, okay. But that's it. There was nothing really about them that interested me. But when 2nd edition came around, when they took the new direction, but again with my knowledge, of them being literal born-again heroes of the past, of them being like these heroes given whole new bodies, literally reforged into angels of war, I was like, yeah, that's a more interesting idea. And when they took the direction of them making both female and male Stormcast Eternals, because again, with them now having bodies, because with them being literal reforged heroes, I think this has opened more creative freedom for Games Workshop. That they don't need to do one monopose design of these Stormcasts. They can make both female and male designs. And I believe that characters like Asteria represents that. And because of that, Asteria makes it onto this list. Like other fantasy characters made into gods for the AoS universe, Alario has been given a glorious new model for the setting. Powerful looking, and with her on top a monster of a beetle. I believe it's characters like Alario that serve as the example that Games Workshop takes when it comes to reimagining their characters for the AoS setting. Because after all, these sort of characters are no longer mortals, but rather gods. And as such, Games Workshop takes that extra step into making them looking more divine looking, something powerful, something that you would want to have as the centerpiece of your army. And with this in mind, Alario represents that. C represents that centerpiece that you will want to have for your Sylvaneth army. Along with a new wave of Stormcast Eternals upon 2nd edition's release, so too did we get a whole new faction for the setting. And with that, a new character, and the next spot on this list. And I'm talking of course of Lady Olander of the Night Haunts. And I gotta say, with a mixture of something creepy looking, yet at the same time something simple and visually pleasing, and you could argue with the case how less is more, I think Lady Olander is a very unique looking model. And again, someone I would definitely like to learn more about. And after a brush of exposure to the character within the campaign book, Wrath of the Everchosen, I'm most interested in reading more of her stories, because that brush of exposure was an excellent experience. At last, we have reached the star of this list, and someone who began turning the gears for my interest in the AoS setting all those years ago. I am talking, of course, of the MILF goddess herself, Marathi Kane. It's because of Marathi's unique design, her sort of Medusa-looking aesthetic, and dare I say, sort of looking like how the Demon Primarch model of Fulgrim could look like. Yeah, it's characters like Marathi that began that interest. It was her that sort of started the first movement for me to get into the AoS setting. And because he did star in the first Broken Realms book, a campaign book that I have found to be an excellent pie of lore, I can't wait to see the direction that Games Workshop's going to take with this character. It's all very exciting, and I for one can't wait to find out. And I'm glad it's with this character, someone who has started it all for me. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the show. Again, this has been my list of favorite female characters found within the tabletop game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. But I'm most interested into reading your top 5 lists in the comments down below this video. Who are your top 5 favorite characters in the AoS game? I bet it's going to be something very neat to read. With all said and done, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again next week with a brand new video. Have an excellent day, guys. And if you enjoy this video and you'd like to subscribe, then make sure to activate the bell notification button so you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll see you again soon. Have a good one.